This is John Boquette with the Newtown Bee. We're back with part 2 of our visit with a number of town officials ahead of the 2015-16 budget referendum. That's coming up at Newtown Middle School. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, April 28th. And there'll also be a number of absentee voting sessions available if you can't make it to the polls that day. We're here with John Quartz, who is the chairman of the Board of Finance, Mary Ann Jacob, who chairs the Legislative Council, School Superintendent Dr. Joseph Verardi, First Selectman Pat Lodra, and Chairman of the Board of Education, Keith Alexander. So Keith, we're going to start this segment out with you, asking you to focus on a couple of elements of your budget that you feel need a little bit of a deeper dive, a little bit more detail. Or maybe a couple of things you've heard taxpayers talking about that you think need a little bit more clarity.
Well, one of the things that we have that we've been given is an opportunity to pilot a world education program at the kindergarten level. We're going to have that program start next year and see how that goes, giving half an hour to kids where they just speak Spanish all at the same time, and keep it to that and see what that program does. What we'd like to do is try and find programs that we can support for the future, to make sure that we're always looking for new things for the Board of Education to do. We're supporting quite a few existing things. We're adding on to some of our programs. We're improving the Gates program, and we're adding money in for a couple new coaches. We've been supporting some. We need to support more. We've been adding here and there a few teachers. This is all based on the fact that we reduced a whole bunch of teachers. Again, this is Dr. Arty's good work in finding the reductions that meet with the declining enrollment. So between those two things, we're able to bring in new programs at the same time.
Very good. First Selectman Pat Lodra, I know there's a couple of things that have been getting a lot of conversation in the community. What are a couple of the ones you think deserve a little bit more explanation?
The biggest item of attention, I think, is the road plan. 2 years ago, in 2014, in developing that budget, the Board of Selectmen developed a long-range plan to add $250,000 each year in our operational budget for road reconstruction. Brought that plan forward to the Board of Finance and Legislative Council. The plan was accepted, with the first iteration being in this current budget, and the second iteration is in the budget that we're asking people to vote on April 28. And that is the addition of $250,000 each year until we get to the $2 million number, which we believe is the amount that we need each year in the operational budget to maintain roads. Once we get them to the level where they can be sustained, we think that that is the correct and appropriate approach to build slowly back up to that level. That was in place about 15 years ago, but financially was not supported since that time. The second piece is to add a person in our IT department so we can better support both the tech needs for the police department and some of the initiatives that we set aside a couple of years ago, such as the online permitting system and the work order system, all of which we're trying to make more available to the general community through use of technology. So this budget proposal has those two significant pieces in it, and again, the Board of Selectmen very appreciative of the readiness of the Council and Board of Finance to listen to those needs and to appropriate the right amount of funds for us to do that.
Very good. Dr. Arty's, you get out into the community a lot. You hear a lot of talk. What are a couple of the issues that, aside from what Mr. Alexander may have already discussed, deserve a little bit more clarity?
Yeah, Mr. Alexander did a really nice job of defining the additional opportunities for students next year. I think that the piece that needs that deeper dive, and I like that expression that you used, is around enrollment, how that affected our reduction in staff, and more importantly, what does that do to teaching and student learning? For example, we are forecasting approximately minus 195 students next school year. That leads to a reduction in force. We reduced our staff accordingly. The community conversation that I've probably spent the most time trying to explain is around how that reduction impacts student learning, and particularly what happens to art and to music and to PE and unified arts. There's been lots of conversation that if you're reducing staff, you must be reducing services. And just, my point is, that's not the case. The bottom line is that student contact time stays exactly the same. The reduction in force takes place because we have fewer classes. So the reduced level of staffing has not impacted in any way class size in our elementary, in our middle, in our intermediate, in our high school, nor has it impacted our unified arts program at any one of our levels.
Thank you. Mary Ann Jacob, how about at the council level? Anything that you heard from council members about specific issues of question or concern out in the community, or anything you've heard yourself?
Well, I think a lot of the council members over the last couple of years have been concerned when I think about the first selectman's budget. It's been so frugal over the last few years that we've actually struggled to maintain some services. We've struggled to keep people. I was happy personally to see that Pat was able to fund her the selectmen's budget at a level that I think is sustainable for the community as well as for the staffing. She was, she already talked about the couple of things she's added, but still be, very, very frugal and conservative. And for the Board of Education, I think big picture, as both Dr. Rardy and Keith Alexander talked about, maintaining the services that Dr. Rardy requested, increasing a couple of key areas so we can try some new programs while reducing staff in a way that's appropriate to address our declining enrollment.
Thanks. Mr. Quartz, how about you? Questions that were developing early on that got a little bit more clarity through the process at the Board of Finance level?
Yeah, there was a number of things, and on a grander scale, I think it's probably important because I think your question was, entailed what you hear from the public. You hear from the public a lot about roads. Public should know that there's a substantial commitment this coming year to improve roads and on an ongoing basis to get us back to where we need to be. Some of the other more esoteric stuff that has a direct impact is obviously taxes. The public should know that the community's efforts are paying off in a lot of the investment in the infrastructure and tax abatement that we've been providing. One of the reasons why taxes are going down is because our revenue is going up and we're seeing savings from our efforts. The revenue you can see in actual new construction around town, if you drive down Route 6 or even through the center of town, that's having a direct impact on each and every household in Newtown that pays taxes. And another big thing has been our prudent fiscal policies. We saw substantial savings this year in our refinancing and our bond upgrade. We're not talking tens and twenties thousands of dollars, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next couple of years. So the public should understand that that's another reason why taxes are declining.
Excellent. We'll be back with our panel in our third segment. We have Board of Finance Chairman John Quartz, Legislative Council Chair Mary Ann Jacob, School Superintendent Dr. Joseph Ferrardi, First Selectman Pat Lodra, and Board of Education Chair Keith Alexander. We'll be coming back to answer the final couple of questions on specific reductions made in the process of refining the budgets to send before voters, and to answer the question about why taxes are going down if spending increases are going up. Stay tuned.